Alright guys, you already read the title. This is Cosmo Moon here, and let's just jump into this, right? So the issue with podcasts, particularly the issue with the impulsive podcast, let's begin. So, right off the bat, number uno issue you have with these podcasts is, and I'm just using him as an example, I enjoy his podcast, I'm just using this as an example, is you have to captivate your audience. If when you are a person like Logan Paul, you are an entertainer, right? You are an entertainer. He does crazy stuff and he builds off these crazy things and uses the momentum to push into the next day to build this excitement, right? To build this excitement. And when you have a podcast, you're just sitting there. You're just sitting there and you're talking. So you have to bring a new aspect of yourself to captivate your viewers, but you also have to still maintain that energetic flow so they still recognize it as being you and not, oh, he's changed, he's somebody else. You're like, no, I'm the same person. I'm just letting you see a different side of me, okay? And with that being said, that is an issue. That's an issue because people get bored, okay? If they don't find you necessarily entertaining, if they just find some of your content entertaining, then you're going to have issues. Another example is there is a guy named Mr. Beast. Love Mr. Beast. Love his videos. I watch all of his videos. But he's one of those people where I really like the guy. Nothing against the guy. Love to meet the dude. I see him super down to earth. I hear nothing but great things about him, but he's literally just a normal, everyday guy that has money and uses it to do cool things. If you were just to do a podcast, I think people would be really entertained at first, and I think it just kind of drop off because they enjoy what he does and maybe just not his personality as a whole, right? Number two, the second issue with these podcasts is you have these guests a lot of times on the impulsive podcast on their podcast. They have guests and that's their highlight, right? So right off the bat when they launch it, they're like, we got to get these people that people know and people identify with them, they want to watch, so we can get them to watch the podcast. So they start with these big names right off the bat, right, to draw in viewers. But what happens is you set the bar for yourself immediately. Whoever you set it with, you set the bar. So if you have a multi-million subscriber account, and they're getting bigger, then all of a sudden you don't have anybody to have on the show and you have a lower channel, that you just lost so much interest right away just because you're building anticipation. And that's the issue. You're gonna hurt yourself because you can't do that like you do in the vlogs, because you can't like there's a peak, you know what I'm saying? There's gonna be a peak when it comes to, because you're depending upon other people, right? And you're not only depending upon their fame, you're depending upon their background and you're depending upon their ability to answer their questions, to provide you the entertainment. The third problem with this, which also ties into the second problem with this, is the fact that with this, if I'm boring, okay, so let's say they had Yes Theory, okay, they did have Yes Theory super recently, and they have Yes Theory on the show, and people are like, Yes Theory is a really big channel, I'm gonna watch this, and then Yes Theory is, it wasn't, but let's say Yes Theory, the guys are just really boring, right? They're just boring in real life and there's nothing captivating about them. Your views are gonna go down and that has nothing to do with you. He's doing his part. He's being eccentric, he's being lively, he's throwing around the movement, he has good questions, he's doing his research, he has studies that he's done prior to, but if they are not holding up to his standard, and if they are not matching his energy, then it dampens not just the overall video, but the atmosphere. It changes the vibe of the video, which then negatively affects those that are viewing it. Not to the point where I'm saying it upsets them or something, but it just detaches you from it and makes you not enjoy it enough to finish it. There have been a number of ones where I see them and right off the bat I'm like, I haven't really heard of this guy, so I'm not gonna watch it. But the only reason why I'm not gonna watch it, it's not just because I haven't heard of this guy, I'm not gonna watch it. It's the fact that you've put so many big names. When I see that he posts, in my mind I'm like, it has to be somebody big, it has to be somebody big. Then it's like there's that little redheaded girl that does ASMR. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna watch this because you probably just didn't have anybody big to have on the channel. So, although that's not really the best example because I actually did end up watching that one just because I was curious about it. So, I guess you could say that I'm contradicting myself, and Kazo, you're an idiot. How dare you say that? Because you're just contradicting yourself. But my point is being that you just build up this expectation. And the other issue, again, just like we'll just rehash this and just wind this all up, throw it out of here, and we'll just be able to move on with this. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, right? But again, real quick overview of what's going on. So you have these podcasts, and here's is my solution. If you want to start a podcast, start it right off the bat being yourself. Okay, you feel my energy, right? If I were to start my own podcast, I'm going to need how I am right now. However I project myself normally on camera, I have to project myself that way on this podcast to still be able to entertain you. If I'm going to bring guests on there, if anything, I want it to be a 50-50 focus. And you're saying, okay, how is that? My thing is, I'm going to ask them questions and I'm going to want them to ask me questions. So even if you aren't necessarily entertained by them, perhaps I can still entertain you with me being myself. Next thing, sorry, just ate at Cheesecake Factory. Whew. Talking too fast for just eating so much food. But anyways, so, and the other thing is, if I'm gonna have guests on here, that's great. For me, I would maybe just do guests occasionally, not a guest every single time, because if I don't have a good guest, then I feel as if I'm letting them down, okay? So for me, I would not have guests all the time, right? I would just have a guest every now and then. I'll say, hey, we got this smaller person. Hey, we got this big person. Hey, we got a smaller person. We got a big person. And because you don't, like I said, you don't want to raise this bar for yourself in this level of expectation and then just kind of have it go falling down. If you don't believe me, go on this podcast right now, impulsive, but Paul, like Logan Paul, the Paul brothers. Go into their podcast, Impulsive, and look at their very first podcast, and look at their second, third, fourth, fifth. Generally speaking, you see a spike and a drop, and then all of a sudden you get a really big person like Austin McBroom. You get a spike and it goes back down, and you get another big person and it spikes and it goes back down. Then you get Yes Theory and it spikes, because it's to the point now where people are going to click on that podcast video according to who is on it, which is messed up. And it's not your fault, because I do the same thing. I don't watch a lot of them, but you're depriving yourself because people are not watching your podcast. They're not watching his podcast about him and his friends because of a guest that is on there. Does that make sense? Because a not big name person is on there, the three of them are losing. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I really don't know how else to explain. It's just a crappy situation. And obviously they're on iTunes and everything, so you guys can check them out. And if you go on iTunes, you buy it, and it helps support them financially. If you watch them on YouTube, then they get the ad revenue. But my biggest point is, I got nothing against my biggest, I don't even know. I don't even know what my point is. There's really no point to this video. I just want to let you guys know my perspective on podcasts, because it's a rising thing. It's a rising topic. KSI has a podcast. Niga Higa. That name is so sensitive to pronounce, by the way. But anyways, he just got his own podcast, and to be honest, I haven't watched any of his yet. And I love his videos. I love his videos, but I love his content. I don't know if I like him necessarily for who he is as a creator, because he's locked himself into comedy, like strategically planned comedy, not improv. But again, with that being said, I think that's why the Impulsive podcast will flourish, because eventually it's going to get to the point, and if it hasn't already, where people are going to watch it just because it has him in it and because they enjoy his personality and they enjoy who he is. And yeah, I think that's about it. And with that being said, this is Cosmo Moon, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.